Hello and welcome to another watercolor session. My name is Gwen and I'm going to show you how to paint a watercolor medieval-y guy. This is based off of my pet crested gecko, Blaze. He is an absolute sweetheart. He was absolutely made fun of by his food the other day and I needed to make him a little revenge piece. So we are painting him holding a very crisped cricket that he just bought in the market. I am beginning the base sketch with my 0.9 mechanical pencil. I hope you're drawing along with me today. I want to kind of show you guys how I draw my fantasy animal characters. I am absolutely obsessed with going to medieval fairs in my local city and in the neighboring counties. And I just love sketching and referencing the costumes that people make and sell. Some of them are just absolutely breathtaking. So I usually have a photo library just full of outfits to reference from. And you are also welcome to look online if you're needing inspiration for an OC original character, or maybe you have a character you want to make fan art of, but you just can't quite get the idea of a fun fantasy outfit. So yeah, I highly recommend, if you haven't gone to a medieval fair or a Renaissance fair, you gotta go. You gotta go. This is prescribed by Dr. Gwen. I'm not actually medically certified, but it's good for your mental health. You need to go. When I'm starting a base sketch, I start with a lot of shapes and lines to make sure I'm really nailing down that gesture. I want the character to feel alive and as if he could actually jump off the page. I want it to feel more comic booky or more like a children's book style rather than my more realistic stuff. And when I say realistic, take that with a grain of salt. It is also very illustrative looking and painterly. Photorealism, I tried that for a little while. It was not my jam, but it is the jam of some people, and I think that's awesome, and they have more patience than I do. But for me, I get a kick out of drawing little cartoon characters and their little worlds. It's just, it's so precious. Little Blaze here is an intern at the local wizard tavern. He is learning the art of fire bending and other fun elemental magic powers. My sister and I kind of started this joke that, it's like, you're a wizard, Harry meme. We were always like, you're a lizard, Harry. And then we were like, it's a wizard lizards. And then it just kind of escalated from there, and then we created this whole world, and I became super hyper fixated on just making this world for my geckos to live in. Yeah. And now I have two females. One is name is Ursa Minor because she's like a little bear, and her patterns look kind of like constellations on her back. It's pretty neat. And then her sister, his name is Magmaline. Or Magma, or I can even call her Maggie for short. I was inspired by lava, and the patterns on her back look kind of like lava, so I was like, oh man, she needs something really feminine. I was like Madeline or Madeline, so I was like, oh, I'll just go with Magmaline. I think that sounds pretty cute. I don't know. I might change their names later because I just got them, but that is what I'm thinking. If y'all have better ideas or better suggestions, please let me know. Comment down below. I would love to see your names. I saw one the other day. They named their gecko Woodchip. I was like, that is great. Woodchip. That is so cute. And the great thing about these geckos is they live for 20 years. They're kind of like dogs in that way. And I imagine this very, very old senior gecko say, by the name of Woodchip. I think that's just absolutely precious. Anyways, yeah. And I was also trying to with my geckos, trying to stay in a theme. So I was like, Blaze, fire. And then I'm like, Magma, fire. And then I was like, oh, but she looks like she has constellations, so hers is going to be Ursa Minor, because I also am a total space nut, so I love space, love, planets, stars, constellations, black holes, you name it. I am into it. Okay, back to what I'm doing right now with sketching. So usually with medieval clothes, it's okay, especially where Blaze is, it's cold. It's Ireland. There's a lot of moisture. You want to keep as much heat inside as possible, and you want to try to make your inner layer more dry. It's it's kind of like a seal. With the way they have that layer of fat protecting them, or with fur, you've got polar bears where they've got that cone hair where it's cold on top, but it's totally insulated on inside. It's pretty sick. In a cool way. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I think about when I am designing medieval themed or kind of fantasy themed characters. Now, if warmer climates, you can have, think about the fabrics that you're designing and drawing. So for Blaze, his is, because he's in cold weather, I'm making more dense, heavier, thick fabrics. I'm layering it up, so he's probably wearing 6 layers right now. He probably can't move his arms much. He probably T-poses very well because he's got so many layers on to protect his little gecko core. Yeah. Anyways, but with a lot of medieval costumes, you can have a lot of fun with it. You can, especially because there's that fantasy element. We've romanticized a lot of medieval culture and medieval, aesthetics. In the past, it really was, it's called the Dark Ages for a reason. It was pretty rough out there. Whereas with the fantasy element, you can have fun with it. You can make it give him a diamond pickaxe. I don't know. Give him superpowers. Fantasy powers. I don't know. Anyways, I am now using a kneaded eraser to make my drawing opaque. I'm using my 0.7 Copic multi-fine liner, and I'm just going to start inking, getting that line work done. I like Copics because it's a waterproof ink, so when I apply the watercolor, it's not going to bleed everywhere. You do not want to make the mistake of using a non-waterproof ink. I did a piece thinking I was using waterproof ink, and as soon as I started adding color, it bled everywhere, and I panicked, but I was able to daub it up before it was too late. But yeah, that was really sad. So it ended up just being a black and white piece. So if you are ever in that situation and you're like, oh, but I really want to still add shading and definition to this piece, I don't want to just leave it with the line work. You can also use a pencil. You can use a graphite block. There are little tubs of graphite powder you can use. You just use a little paintbrush and basically paint with it. You can smudge it around with your fingers. I sometimes use Kleenexes that are actually Kleenex brand because they have lotions and oils in them. Now, this is not archival, but it does really give a nice shine to your graphite because of the oil and lotion in it. I've never had any oil stains from it before, but I have used it for just some of my own personal illustration work. I don't use it for professional stuff, just in case the client does want it to be archival. Just always assume the client does want it to be archival unless you can ask them and they can specify, but usually they want to have that piece to remind them of their artistic vision. I absolutely love doing the line art. It is so therapeutic. You just get to follow the gray lines and just kind of get to zone out it. And then also I like that you get to add the textures to the pieces, so it's getting to make the hat look like it's made of leather, being able to draw the materials, draw the little stitches. I love doing detail work. Oh, it is so much fun. And it also just makes the coloring process very entertaining because you get to just add shading, it's I don't know, it feels magical. It feels magical when you add color to ink. If you have not done a lot of line art or worked with a lot of ink, My recommendation is just to work with ballpoint pens. I had a lot of car rides as a kid, and even like, just going anywhere, waiting in lobbies, waiting in doctor's offices. Maybe you have a train commute or a bus commute, or, if you're going to be, as a passenger in traffic, or, if you're on a flight, or just, sitting down watching a movie, or your off time, lunch breaks, just sketch, draw. I recommend just inking everything. Ink, your lunch. I had a challenge in art school where I had to paint or sketch every single beverage I had in a week. It was so much fun, and I have some really hysterical doodles and sketches. It does not have to be pretty. It can be derpy. It can be the king of derp, but just helping your mind learn those paths, getting it trained. It's like lifting weights. It's like going to the gym. Slowly you build up your stamina, and you're able to draw a form way faster than you could the day before, just because of that daily practice. It's so important when drawing. Another thing I totally recommend for if you're wanting to improve the speed of your sketching and the quality of your work, I set little timers for myself. I usually do like 10-minute and 15-minute increments, just to help myself stay on task and to get an illustration done in a reasonable amount of time. I can be very, very methodical and slow with my art, and especially with inking, you could literally just I could get lost in the lines for hours, just doing little details here and there. And those timers are a lifesaver, because then I can get 3 illustrations done in the time of like where I used to be able to only get like 1 done. So yeah, timers, they are awesome. Also use them in life. Timers are great. If you just got a little 5-minute timer, 10-minute timer, just to help you get, your bed made. Sad, right? I know. It helps. It helps a lot. And also setting a little goal list for yourself. So, for me, I was really struggling with like canine anatomy. I was wanting to draw some wolf conservation pieces, and I just could not understand it. I was like, I kept drawing the derpiest looking dogs, especially like wolves are different. They're hard, man. They're hard because they have these like front facing eyes, but you don't want to make them like uncanny valley, like scary. So I wanted to capture they're really cute and sweet, and I wanted to capture their silly personalities. And so I just made little goals for myself in a notebook. Also, like I did some of the notes app, and I just daily checked off those things. And by the end of 2-week period, I was in a much better place with as far as drawing and sketching these animals. And for some people, that might be gesture drawing people or characters. I have Pinterest boards and image PDFs that I've created over the years, full of gestures and character designs and, just environment references. And it really helps just get those creative juices flowing. Sketching daily also, it just really improves your character design and your understanding of forms. For me, I love doing character designs. My sketchbooks are full of little characters and comics and storyboards and little environments. I also love doing creature designs and just figuring out anatomy, how these characters work. It's really important to understand how your character moves. Do they have a limp? Are they a quadruped? Do they, walk around on 2 feet? Do all their hands work? Are they like with my gecko guy? He has, his hands are going to be a little sticky. His feet are going to be a little sticky. He's got to be able to crawl on walls and ceilings, but also be able to just walk like a normal guy. He does not wear shoes. And just understanding, does your character walk confidently? Are they very passive? Do they walk with passion? Are they shy? It's just all these things. You don't always think about it when designing these characters, but it helps. Also, I have a little box that has random things written in it. That helps. Random word generators help as well if you're feeling a little bit of art block, and color schemes as well. We're going to be going with a more fiery color scheme because Blaze is, his name is Blaze, and then he's also, working on his fire powers. So he needs to have a very fire and lava themed outfit. I have had so much fun inking this cricket and making it look super crispy. I have definitely eaten some candy crickets in my time, some salted crickets, some dried crickets. It's not my favorite, but it is Blaze's favorite. So today is about him, so we're getting that done. Now that we are finishing up with the inking, I'm going to be using this Tombow sand eraser. It's just going to help get all of the graphite that's really been pressed into the paper. It's going to get it all up so that we can add color and it won't make any of our watercolors muddy. Be sure to always sign your artwork. Now for my other favorite part, color. I'm just going to start adding the base layer of Blaze's skin tone. So it's going to be a nice like apricot orange. So we just start building up. It's wet on wet. Slowly you start with a lighter color, then you start going in with the darker colors. Watercolor is kind of funny like that. Usually with painting you start with all of your dark shades first and then you build up from there. But so like, dark shadows, then you work with light, but because you can't layer watercolors in that way, you start with all of your light and then you add your shadows at the end. Yeah, hope that made sense. Anyways, watercolor, wet on wet technique. Oh my gosh, layering. What is this? Yeah, layering is so important in watercolor. You can't just slap it all together. Like you can't just blend it while it's, you've got to be patient. This medium has shown me so much patience. Oh my goodness, words are hard today. I don't know why. Some days are easier than others. I am sure I'm not alone. Something I do like to add though while everything is still wet is all of the blush and the warmer tone areas. So it's just to give him a little bit of, a fleshy look. I want to layer up this cricket right now. He's gonna need a lot of, he needs to look like he's covered in Korean barbecue sauce. This is the most delicious. He spent a whole day's wage on this roasted cricket. And so I'm going to be starting with a nice burnt umber and then go on, not burnt umber, burnt sienna, and just build up from there. I'll be adding some juicy reflections later. It's going to be great. And one thing that's really cute about crested geckos is they have these bright pink tongues. So when Blaze is licking up little pieces of strawberry or papaya or other fruit, it's just a little blip, blip, pink tongue. And if you can't see it, but my hand's doing the little tongue flick motion. Yeah, it's just really cute. I love watching him eat special little treats. It's the best. I am now just getting all of the flat color done, and once I've got all the flat color, I'll let it dry for a little bit and then come back and do all the fancy shading. Yeah, one thing, if your paper is still very moist and you want to add details, but maybe using a pencil or a brush or a different kind of paint, just wait until it is completely dry. Otherwise, it will just make your paper and your watercolors look super janky. I have tried to add watercolor pencils to slightly damp watercolor paper, and it's just a disaster. You just wait. It's okay. You can also use a hairdryer as well, but I find that hairdryers can sometimes they mess with the archival pigments. You can use a heat mode, but you can also use a air temperature mode, it's just blowing air at it. But I just have always found using the hairdryer can sometimes, it messes with the texture of everything. and messes with the way the hues dry on the paper. So like you may not see it now, but like years from now, you'll definitely see a difference. You know, if someone else feels differently, you know, I'm open to the conversation, absolutely. But yeah, that's my hot take on using hair dryers for art, for archival stuff. Now, if you're just doing a fun little project and you know it's practice, you know, just go right ahead. Also, because you know what is archival? I mean, I know what it is, but you know, you got like The Last Supper. Da Vinci used the cheapest materials to paint it because he was a man on a budget, you know, and he got what he could, you know, buy at the time, and you know, but he also bought the cheap materials at the time, and it is, from what historians say, an absolute nightmare to preserve. But you know, it's. You know, I think it's a tale as old as time for us artists. We love a good deal. Cheap sketch pads, cheap material. It's where it's at, you know? It's like that Pacha meme where he's like, oh, it's perfect. You know, that's how it is. You know, the scritchier it is on the paper, the better. Yeah. Archival, I guess, is what makes something archival is up to us as humans. And yeah, so you never know. Your nice sketchbook may live to be in a museum 3,000 years from now. I like to think about that. All my cringe stuff alongside some of my hopefully nice things. Imagine like if all of your art disappeared, but only the cringe stuff survived, like nuclear war, and you know, maybe it's in a cave or it's like, you know, 3,000 years later, and they've only got your like cringe anime like practice sketches, and then like all of your pages of like practice anime eyes and practice hands, like, and then they're like, oh, this is the most beautiful work. Like, I don't know, I feel like I'd face palm. Like, I'd be like, oh gosh, like, no. I think though that would be pretty legendary. It would be pretty legendary to be known for that. I have really enjoyed designing this particular outfit just because I wanted it to be fire themed, and I also love fall and, you know, earth colors, so it was really satisfying to just kind of see this start working together with the orange, reds, and brown hues, much like fallen leaves, because I mean he is the size of a fallen like little leaf. I mean, he's sleeping on a leaf right now. Blaze is like all curled up, and he's like a little dog, like a little donut. And I tried to get him out earlier to hold him while I was recording, and he was not having it. He was like, ugh, Mom, don't touch me. I want to sleep. Just 5 more minutes, please. So, I mean, that was like an hour ago, but he's still like that. So I'm just going to let him sleep and vibe. He is the most active at around 2 a.m. Like last night, I heard this like thump at like 2:30, and I look, and he's just holding on to his glass door on his enclosure, looking at me, and like I was like, dude, I wish I could take him out and cuddle with him. But yeah, he was just having a blast. He was probably hunting a cricket that he found that I missed, and that cricket was doomed because I found traces of it later, so it was probably that cricket. There was like a leg sticking to the side of the other side of the glass. It was like Jurassic Park. It was really gross. So now that we basically have all of the flat color, I'm going to start doing the shadows. This is what we were talking about earlier, guys. We're adding that dark pigment to all of the clothing. We want to get like a nice dark leather. I wanted it to feel like wet leather. Like if you've ever had like a leather coat or even a leather bag out in like cold, wet rain, it has this like certain texture about it. And I just kind of wanted to add that to the hat. And here we go. We're starting to give that texture to the cricket. I want him to be like, so yummy, covered in that sauce. He paid extra for it, by the way. It's like paying for the tahine on your fruit or your on your corn. It's like, gotta pay extra for that BBQ sauce, the barbecue. Oh yeah. But I also just wasn't trying to imagine like what this tastes like. Like, I don't know, would it taste like chicken? Maybe it's like that moment in Surf Stuff when like everything, like Chicken Joe's eating all the squid on a stick and he's like, tastes like chicken. It's like, yeah, it probably tastes like chicken with like Chick-fil-A's Polynesian sauce. I don't know. That would be really yummy. Oh my gosh. I might have to try that. Blaze, is it okay if I eat one of your crickets? He's ignoring me. Well, since I pay for your crickets and you don't pay rent, I'm gonna eat one. I'm not actually gonna eat one, don't worry. No, I can't imagine the crickets from Petco are food safe. No, probably not. Oh, just thinking about it. It's also fun just imagining all of the environments and lore you can create around your characters. I've been trying to imagine where Blaze would be, like if it's a, human proportioned universe and he's just a really tiny guy running around and all the other animals he's working with are all like properly sized, or like would it actually be like tiny taverns in tiny villages? I'm thinking doing the tiny taverns and villages just because I think it's really cute to think of him like in a tiny little building with tiny furniture and like little tiny beer steins and little food. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of doing. And maybe it's like a mostly like, I don't know, maybe it's like reptiles and amphibians only. And they've got like different kinds of villages like Zootopia. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah. You actually got like a mammals world. This one's all amphibians and reptiles. Yeah. Oh, that might be really cute. I'm gonna try that out. Hey, if you want to add any creatures to this universe, please feel free to. I particularly like working with Faber-Castell and Winsor Newton watercolors, as well as Holbein. So what I do is I buy the tubes that have wet paint, and then once my little trays are empty, or I sometimes have like extra trays, and I will fill those with the wet paint. And during a project, I will use that wet paint, but I will allow it to dry for like a day or two, and then I've got this dry paint that can be reactivated, and I have that for several months, and it's great for traveling. I often love to go hiking or in plein air paint. I also like to paint on commutes to work or to just doing fun stuff on my days off, and it's awesome. I also recommend Koi. Koi has this travel kit that is huge. I think there's like one that's 15 pallets, like little pallet trays, and then there's one that's like 30. This person gave me the one that was 30. They were really cool. I was at work and they were like, hey, you like to watercolor? And I was like, yeah. And they pulled this giant Koi travel tray out of their backpack and I was like, here you go. And I was blown away. I was so grateful. And yeah, that person was a great coworker. This was back when I was working at Disney. So designing medieval characters and medieval creatures, it's so much fun. It's very cozy. I like it because you can also just, with the fantasy element, you can kind of add and do whatever you want. You don't have to worry about accuracy necessarily. You can add kind of futuristic elements if you want, because again, with the advent of fantasy, you can make it kind of a magical item. You can make things glow. You can make things of different textures. You can make it, dragon scale armor. It's unlimited in what you can do with fantasy art and illustration. What I like to do before starting a piece, I usually do a couple of side sketches. So some of them are more of just gestures. Other ones are the character in different costumes, maybe, in different settings. Maybe they're interacting with another character. But I just like to get some little doodles. They're basically little thumbnails to get an idea of who this character is. And yeah, this is kind of my comfort area where I love just drawing animals in general in cute medievally fantasy clothing. But yeah, like if this is your first venture in it, it's a very alien landscape. There's a lot of things you can do. I mean, you can go full Game of Thrones. You can go, full Ghibli on it. You could go like The Hobbit. Oh my gosh, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Ooh, I was definitely a Hobbit core person. Still kind of am. I love The Lord of the Rings. It's such a cozy environment. My uncle just did this one that was really cool. It was a camp in California, and basically these kids got to read like 200 pages a day of Lord of the Rings, or they could listen to it audibly. And they would eat foods that were kind of themed loosely off of the books, like The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. And then they would do like just activities and would just discuss what they had read that day. And I was like, that sounds like the most epic, like, nerd festival ever. I want to go so bad. I didn't know those kinds of things existed. Like, it's happening next year, and I'm like, I need to do this. But it was like the all homemade breads and homemade foods. It was like mouth watering. Like apparently there were kids like hiding food in their cabins because the food was so good. They went hardcore on The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings atmosphere. It was absolutely epic, and I just love that something like that exists here in the world. It's so cool. So I am from California. I was raised in Los Angeles, and it's so much fun. I just think Californians have more fun. My mother signed my brother and I up for a LARP club. It was like a PE extracurricular thing, and honestly it was so much fun. It was really formative for me and my brother. I didn't quite understand all of the stats and everything, but it was great because I think most of the kids involved didn't really know how to play the game accurately. I still don't to this day, but I really enjoyed being able to just play different games. It was like awesome imaginative play. We got to climb trees. We got to go chase each other around with giant axes and swords. And we'd create little clubs and decide that one kid was, the goblin for the day. And then we'd track him down, and then we'd all have fun with an epic sword battle at the end. But it was a really great bonding experience. And I think there needs to be more play, definitely, in these PE activities, or something like a more imaginative stuff, because it was really great. It was really great. And I think it helped me form as a person. But yeah, that also I think helps with this whole medieval fantasy design. I have goldfish brain today. Maybe Blaze feels the same way too. I think it's a really rainy day today, so I think it's just my brain is in cozy mode and wants to sleep, and I can't. I have to live my life. I can't sleep all day like a cat, even if I want to. But Blaze can. He's allowed to sleep all he wants because he's a cutie patootie. But yeah, I feel like maybe that's why my brain's just shutting down, because it's literally that. It's like a nice Earl Grey sky. That's all I can describe. And the rain sounds, they're like Minecraft rain sounds. It's so nice. Oh my gosh. I literally ate dinner with the patio door open just so I could listen to the rain sounds. Ugh. I always love adding the detail at the end, giving it all the dimension and form. It really helps bring the character and its costume to life. Thinking of doing some more geckos in this series. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about it, but it might be fun. If you have any suggestions, comment down below. I'd love to know. Blaze has been absolutely hilarious. I was taking him out of his enclosure the other night just to hold him and, let him kind of get his wiggles out around the room. And as soon as he was done, I was putting him back in, and he jumped out of like my hand into what I was hoping was the vine that I had put my hand up against. But instead, he decided to completely bypass that and jump to the very back of the tank. And what was absolutely hilarious about it was there was like this perfect circle of ivy that was formed, and he jumped through it like a hoop of fire, and then he just disappeared. He did this like all hands sprawled out like a flying squirrel, like whee, and then he went through the leaves and then just disappeared into the back of the enclosure. And I was like, Blaze, you good? And I moved some of the ivy to check on him, and he was totally fine. He was fine, but it was just hilarious to see him like go whee, like fly and then just disappear in the brush in this like string of leaves. It was hysterical, absolutely hysterical. Yeah, he's such a funny guy. Yeah. What I'm using right now is a white Caran d'Ache colored pencil. It's the Luminance pencils, and they are amazing. They're just like they're like a regular colored pencil, but the colors are way more vibrant. They are archival, and they're like drawing with butter. Yeah, Caran d'Ache. I use Caran d'Ache's crayons as well. I take those out with me to do a lot of plein air sketching. The great thing about the crayons is most of them are activate with water, so I use them to make like super vibrant colors for quick illustrations. If I want like a good vibrant green from a fresh Florida rain, I use the Caran d'Ache crayons and the Caran d'Ache colored pencils. They are phenomenal, and they work like on any paper, any medium. Like I use them in my mixed media stuff all the time. This technically counts as mixed media, the piece I'm making right now. But yeah, Caran d'Ache colored pencils, the Luminance ones, amazing. Yeah, this white one, I have so many of them. I have a white one and a black one that I use all the time because they are my best, like, especially like when I make an oopsie, like, oh no, like I made a mistake. That they have saved my bacon so many times, and it just looks aesthetic, at the end. It doesn't look like you made a mistake. It's so nice. But yeah, Caran d'Ache, it's a Swiss company. You can't go wrong. It is so nice. And the pen that I'm using to do all of the little like white highlights where like light is hitting it, though, this is called a Posca acrylic fine liner pen. It's the white version, and what's great about it too is it activates with water as well. So I use that too to again give some more texture, more depth to the piece. And what's great too is sometimes it dries a little opaque, so it really blends nicely, gives that nice like animation feel. Yeah, it's real nice. So what I'm doing here is just picking up some of the watercolor with my watercolor brush from Faber-Castell, and I'm just kind of blending it into the colored pencil markings, and that's just going to help, again, give a little more depth. Yeah, just adding the final touches. I hope you have all enjoyed this cozy watercolor talk and have maybe learned something. Really just enjoy making this kind of stuff and showing my art process, sharing it with people. It's super fun. But yeah, oh, and this is that black Caran d'Ache I was talking about. Oh, and there's my marker. Oh, and we gotta add the last steamy bits to my Cricut to make sure he's nice and hot. And voila, this is my final illustration. Thank you so much for watching this long, and I hope to see you in my next video. Have a lovely night, guys. Thank you so much for sketching with me. Bye-bye.